All right, everyone, welcome to our lesson for October 19th. This is problems during the teenage years. So our objectives and standards to identify the problems that teenagers face and recognize why teenagers face problems. And just take a quick look at the standards, please. In our vocabulary preview, we have anorexia nervosa, a serious eating disorder that is based off a fear of gaining weight and results in a prolonged period of self-starvation and dramatic weight loss. And bulimia nervosa, a serious eating disorder caused by compulsive overeating, typically followed by self-induced vomiting or abuse of laxatives. So I want you to think about this. Again, many of you are going through your teenage years yourself or coming to the end of your teenage years. So are there any problems you think teenagers face? And our central question, also based off of that, what problems do teenagers face? So Erickson in 1968, remember that he came up with the lifespan development, and he stated that each lifespan development has specific challenges and problems that people go through. And with that said, teenagers during their lifespan development deal with many physical, emotional, and social developments. Therefore, it is natural that teenagers may deal with some psychological difficulties. Most teenagers adjust to these quickly, but others do not. So from 1950 to 1990, suicides among teenagers quadrupled. Now, the rate of teenage suicides has decreased then, but again, it is still a serious issue in our country and even in different parts of the world. And sometimes rates may be underestimated since medical personnel will sometimes label a death as an accident to protect the family in some cases. Now, rationalization for risk. Teenagers may take risky behaviors due to the illusion of invulnerability. We talked about this, I believe, last week, where teenagers may say, "Oh, that'll never happen to me. If I use drugs or alcohol, I'm safe, I'm smart, I know my limit. I can get in the car and drive home after I've had a couple of drinks," whatever the case may be, because they have this illusion of invulnerability that bad things won't happen to them. When in reality, bad things can happen to anybody. Um, a lot of times also these risky behaviors are done with friends that rather than alone. So obviously drug abuse or alcohol abuse or other risky behaviors, teenagers typically don't do them alone, so they do it a lot of times with their friends. Now, examples of juvenile delinquency include running away from home, pregnancy, drug or alcohol abuse, and crime. Now again, these aren't all, every case is different for teenagers, but again, these are some of the different examples that psychologists have identified. In 2003, juveniles were involved in 15% of violent crimes and 29% of property crimes. So again, just showing you some of the different statistics. Now, most juveniles will typically outgrow these behaviors, but adults should be concerned, obviously, with teenagers who do not outgrow them, since then a lot of times these problems or risky behaviors will follow teenagers into their adult years and most of the time for their lives. So suicide and depression. So in 1982, Kathleen McCoy stated I'm sorry, that should say that. My fault. Just trying to fix that here for you. That depression among teenagers it is more widespread than educators or parents believe. Now, there are many causes for depression, including the death of a loved one, divorce of parents, relocation. So an adult may typically be upset or sad when these things happen, but teenagers typically feel extremely angry instead of upset or sad. And because they're feeling extremely angry, they may participate in risky behaviors such as drug or alcohol abuse, running away, sexual behavior, or truancy, which truancy is not attending school. Hyperactivity and teenagers being frantic are also behaviors of teenage depression as well. Now, there are some warning signs. McCoy also urged that parents and educators be aware of signs of depression and suicide in teenagers. Again, changes in the frequency or intensity of risky behavior, withdrawing from friends, dangerous, risky behavior as well, and even talking of suicide or being extremely critical of themselves. Now, the best way to help these people is the best way for help is to communicate with family and friends about their problems, and professional help may be needed as well. So, teenagers and eating disorders. So, eating disorders may affect female teenagers and young female adults the most. Those who develop eating disorders do not gain the calories that they need, so that's why this is dangerous. One of these is anorexia nervosa, which is characterized by refusing to eat anything and not maintaining a healthy weight. It is caused by a fear of gaining weight or fat, even though they are already underweight or thin. So these are typically, thinner or skinnier girls who uh, believe they're putting on weight or gaining weight, so they'll typically engage in these types of behaviors. Now, typical treatment for this would be to encourage weight gain, obviously, and also to help with dealing with their psychological problems. Now, psychologists sometimes believe that eating disorders can symbolize a female's refusal to grow up. Um, those who develop anorexia typically miss their menstrual cycles, and psychologists also believe that teenagers who use anorexia uh, psychologists also believe that teenagers use anorexia to take control of their bodies when they feel like they don't have control of other areas that are going on outside of their life. Now, bulimia nervosa is another eating disorder that is characterized by binge eating or overeating in one time and then purging. So, either self-inducing vomiting or use of laxatives. And those that suffer from this are typically concerned about body weight and image and usually do these actions in private. Psychologists also believe that those that suffer from bulimia may have a feel of alienation or are looking for approval from others. Maybe that's some background to why they're doing it. They may also suffer from depression, mood swings, and anxiety. And some options for treatment do include therapy and antidepressant drugs. So problems during the teenage years. So again, teenagers can face many mental difficulties. Again, it's a very stressful time in humans' lives, as many of us are aware, with physical, social, and emotional demands. So many times some teenagers may develop some problems because of that. And some of those examples are suicide, depression, and eating disorders that can afflict teenagers. All right. So please submit the questions. Let me know if you have any questions or concerns, and I'll see you next time.